sometimes I just think, you know what, there's a lot happening in the world and we need to discuss it. From my office. Now, I'm down visiting my parents. And my dad's taking a nap. Two big things happened today to me that are worth, well, there's always a lot to talk about, but two things. The Michelle Troconis trial has ended with a verdict, and Alexei Navalny's funeral, which is happening really, I think, as we speak right now. Let's start close to home. Michelle Troconis was charged with being an accessory to murder and concealing evidence and doing all sorts of things with her boyfriend, Fotis Dulos. So this happened in Connecticut. Was it 2019? Oh, I messed up the date. And 2021. Anyway, Fotis Dulos killed his wife, mother of 5 children. He, at the time, they were going through a pretty bad divorce. He had started dating a woman named Michelle Troconis and wanted actually to move her into the house with his wife, Jennifer Dulos, and their children, and obviously Jennifer, because she's a beautiful, amazing, thank you, May 2019, beautiful, accomplished woman with 2 sets of twins and another child. And interestingly enough, very good friends with a college friend of mine. So we have had lots of opportunities to talk, and I feel like I've gotten kind of an inside look at like the fact that this was a woman like most of us would know, maybe a little smarter than me, but just really an incredible person who, the only thing I think she did wrong, which, you know, hindsight's 2020, is marrying him. So he was married at the time, and he probably was a master manipulator and charmed her and divorced the first wife, and they got married like 6 weeks later. Women, it is never going to turn out well for you. If someone leaves their wife for you, don't trust them. That's like, I'm going to like create a top 10 list for dating. That's one. If they hit you, goodbye. So anyway, Fotis Dulos is like, oh, you know, it's not me. Well, like my mother said, how do people not know their cameras anymore? So even if you wanted to kill somebody, even if you felt like, I'm sure Jennifer Dulos felt like, you know, him. But she would be like, well, that's not going to be worth it. Because regular people are like, you're going to go to jail. And then you're never going to see your kids again. That would be my thought. Not that there's anybody I want to axe or anything. But narcissists are different. Narcissists believe that they are the sun in the sky and that they won't get caught because they are so smart. That's why narcissists are dangerous, right? And so he sets up his wife, ex-wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, who that morning in 2019, she took her 5 kids to school. She drove back to her house. She was planning to like go into the city that day and never picks the kids up. The nanny is like, that's not normal. You know, if it were Adrian, they'd be like, well, maybe she's asleep. But anyway, well, that same day, he says, well, I was at home, I had a call, I had an office. And there is this very interesting thing that the prosecution wanted to call a script and the defense called a timeline. And the judge ruled they could not call it a script. So they called it a timeline. Well, what it was is there were 2 lists. He made a list and she made a list. And the lists were very detailed. Like if I said to you, okay, Michelle, Alan just said, glad a jury got it right. Me too. I want you to write down everything you've done today. okay? Because here's what they said. They said, our attorney told us to write down everything we've done today, and we did it. So here's what I would write if it were my day. I mean, every detail. Okay. Woke up at 9:05 and panicked that I'd missed my 9:30 meeting. I didn't. Got up, got a text from my friend Kate, who was sending me something ridiculous on Facebook. I called her so we could discuss the ridiculousness of when people compare autism like Amos has or Cooper has to people that are the good doctor. So we spent about 20 minutes really deep diving into that. And then I got off at 9:31. I called Angela. I sat out on the back porch. We talked for about 30 minutes. We discussed a new weight loss medicine. We discussed Elizabeth, the Blue Cross Blue Shield. Is Elizabeth going to help me get a new weight loss medicine? If I don't get it, it's going to be $500 a month. We talked about stomach, this gastric sleeve option. Got off. Then what did I do? Put on my bathing suit. Sent some emails, texts. Oh, talked to my friend Casey for like 2 hours, which is very unusual, but so nice. My parents were here the whole time. I got a package. I got a text. I got that. So I know this is annoying, but do you see that? It's very specific. Just went in the kitchen, made myself a pimento cheese sandwich. Noticed that the bread bag had been cut in half. My dad doesn't like the extra plastic, so he cuts it. Anyway, had some French onion chip dip and some Doritos. And now I'm out here. Oh, and the pool guy came and sprayed a bunch of bleach or something in this pool that's probably bleaching my bathing suit as we speak. So anyway, that was the day. Nothing else happened. So this is what they did. They both gave this list. And her list says, that morning I did this, I did that, I did whatever. And his list says, that morning I got a call from my business partner in Greece. We talked for a little while and then went over to whatever, and also had a call at my office with so-and-so. So he mentions these 2 calls in his timeline script. Well, her timeline script, oh, and then the other thing, so this is the script, and they're saying this was a timeline. We gave this to show what we had done. Where they screwed up, and this is why my mother has always said to me, if you tell the truth, you don't have so much to remember. Where they screwed up is they intentionally, and I think this is why Michelle Troconis is guilty, and proven guilty, and now out on $6 million bond, and her fanny's going to be going to prison. And rightfully so. And of course her sister is like, we think she's innocent. Bullshit-a-loney. I mean, are people like not... I'm sorry. I feel like I'm fairly intelligent. Like, I do not have to be an enabler. But anyway, the timeline conveniently leaves out some very important things. Because it's their word. This is a timeline. We wrote everything we did that day. Here's the timeline. The timeline, he says, I took a call at home from so-and-so in Greece, and I had a call at my office. Okay? You're like, great. Her timeline says I was at home, I don't know, watching Donahue. Who knows? Well, later, in the first two interviews, she was watching Donahue. Not until the third interview did she say, well, he asked me to take this call from his friend in Greece at the house. And then I went to his office and took another call. Now her defense is saying, well, I mean, she didn't lie. She just forgot to put it on the timeline. So he had it on his timeline, and she didn't have it on her timeline, right? So if she were innocent, it should have been listed on her timeline. And then the question would have been, why do you both have listed that you took a call from Bert and Ernie from Grease, right? Not on her timeline. The other thing that wasn't on either of their timelines was the drive through town and the 32 stops to discard trash bags, blood-soaked bra, duct tape, paper towels, a bazillion things. Now, this is a 30-minute ride. And she is caught because, hello, we live in, the 21st century. They are caught on camera in this truck that they have borrowed from someone because, the same truck that they told the employee, well, you know what, you should just get new seats. Because that's what you do when you borrow a car. You get new seats. And the person got new seats, but he kept the old seats. But anyway, I digress. They drive around and they stop 32 times. Well, on surveillance, it's like, yeah, they're stopping at this trash can, and then they're stopping at this trash can. I mean, it's a pretty, quaint little street, and they are stopping. Well, at one point, you see her, and this is where she, ding, 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 she gets out of the car, and she, does something, right? And she gets back in the car. Well, her defense says, well, she didn't know what he was doing. We're talking about Michelle Troconis' guilty verdict. She was just riding in the car. Time out. Thank you, Lee. No woman in the history of the earth has ever ridden in a car and not asked, why are we stopping? If I am in the car and Thomas, before he stops, he says, I need to stop and get gas. And you know what my response always is? I'm not proud of this. Why didn't you get it before? Right? Because he's normal. The same reason I love to have an empty gas tank until 7 a.m. and it's time to drive to school. And I'm suddenly blaming him. Why don't I have a husband that fills up my gas tank, right? 32 stops. If there is a woman out there, I would like them to reach out to Michelle Troconis' sister and say, I believe you. Because I always ride around with people that deposit trash 32 times. If I were the sister, I'd be like, Michelle, I loved you, but goodbye. I mean, you a liar, and I'm not going down with your ship. But the sentencing is on 531. Yes, it is on 531. But that has nothing to do with anything. We're talking about the guilty verdict. Yeah, I do that too. It's my husband's fault, right? 32 times. So here's what a car ride would be like if I was in a car and they stopped 32 times. What are you doing? Why are you stopping? Well, I have to throw away some stuff. Why don't we just go to the dump? Why would you stop at every trash can? This is ridiculous. I have things to do. It's hot. I have to get home and check on so-and-so. I mean, are we going to stop and get dinner? Well, I might as well walk. Why don't you drop me off? You don't think it was 32. It was at least 17. To me, once you've gotten past one and not asked, maybe two. Maybe two. This is how I know liars, right? And I know when they're like, well, you don't know this and you don't know that. The one thing I do know is that people that are narcissists think other people are idiots. Think of Brian Laundrie's parents. Their son arrives home in his girlfriend's car without her. And they just say, oh, And then her mother starts calling, Gabby Petito, and says, we're looking for Gabby. Do they answer the phone and say, Brian, where is Gabby? You said she was staying with her friend Margie in Almarata. No, they don't do that. They don't answer the phone. You know what they do? They block Gabby Petito's number. And you know why? Because they're guilty as a pig in slop. Guilty. So anyway, you do not have to overthink these things. And juries do. Juries have to go beyond a reasonable doubt. They have to. I would struggle, but they have to. So neither one of them has on their timeline the stops at the trash can. Now again, if I'm innocent, I got nothing to lose. I'm married or getting married to somebody who is whatever. And somebody says to me, write your day down. I told y'all what my day was. My day is exactly that. But what if I had left out of my day, where I said I got up at 9, I talked to Angela. What if I had left out of the day? Well, between talking to Kate and Angela, I spoke to my grandmother in Sicily. And then I actually ran over to Thomas's office and I took a call there. Right? And then I got in the pool. I made a pimento cheese sandwich. My mother yelled at me because she thought I was going to wake up my dad. I did a video. I thought about doing some work. I didn't. What if in there I had forgotten to say to you, and this dummy husband of mine, boyfriend, drove me around for 30 minutes and we stopped at 17 trash cans. And I forgot to tell you that. That would be so infuriating that of course you would write that down. You wrote down, changed my, underpants, but not that. So you know what? You made your bed, Michelle Troconis, and now you're going to lie in it. And I don't care what explanation you give or what you knew, but the moment you ran off with somebody's husband, do not come crying to me that he got you in a mess. And I really feel strongly about that. If women want to screw up and leave their marriage and go have an affair with somebody else, have at it. I don't care. But when a woman takes another man's husband, and I might sound like I'm from like 1827, I don't trust that woman. Ain't no man. Screw your own husband over, but you're not going to screw over another woman. You are making me laugh. They found her on guilt, but she has a freaking bail. I don't know if she's made it, but it's $6 million. She's totally on a skewer. She's done. Yeah, so if you don't know the story, Fotis Doulos, who, we worry about people that take their own lives. Did you hear about the princess, somehow related to Prince Charles, that the princess's husband died? He was like 45. Well, he took his own life. And it makes you so sad. And you think, boy, I'm sure he had a lot of struggles. Fotis Doulos did not have any struggles. Narcissists kill themselves because it is a power play. So I'll give you an example. Jim Jones, right? Jim Jones gives everybody cyanide and then he shoots himself. Or Brian Laundrie. He goes out there in the, abyss of the jungle of Florida and he takes his own life. And then his parents just happen to go out there one day. Lo and behold, they walk right up to where he is and where his stuff is. Now, if you believe Brian Laundrie's parents didn't know what the hell had happened, then you're not too smart either. And now, this example. Epstein. Yeah, Fotis Doulos is out on bail. There is video of him doing the trash. His world is crashing down. He's going to jail. And he goes home and he takes his own life. Not because he has mental health problems. He's a narcissist. Anyway. So I just hate it. And now there's 5 children, ages 8 to 13. 13-year-old twins, I think. Maybe 11-year-old twins and like an 8-year-old. And they are being raised by Jennifer's mother, who is in her 80s and lives in New York City. These 5 kids have this amazing mom and a crappy dad who was not even allowed to have access to them without supervision because he was crappy. And now they have no one. And you might think like, well, this is when people say things like, God has a plan. Shut that mess up. If you think this is God's plan for anybody, you're crazy. People have free will and make terrible decisions. If you want to get drunk as a coot and go out in a car and run over somebody, then you can. And it is not God's plan. So that's why when people say stuff like that to me, it annoys me. Because if you've ever lost a sibling to cancer, like I have, and somebody tells you, well, it's meant to be. What? Do not say stuff like that. Oh, so annoying. How do you do that to another woman? Or, in a laundry case, another mother? Well, that is a good point. So the jury said she conspired to be a part of it. And that's really hard for us to wrap our minds around, I think. That's really hard to wrap our minds around. It's one thing if you knew about it. Like, let's talk about for a minute who are those fools from Utah that he killed, the Daybells, Lori and Chad Daybell. He killed his wife, then her brother died. She killed a husband. I mean, then they killed the 2 children. Those 2 clearly were in cahoots. But in this case, you're like, this woman is a mother, and she just up and decided, I'm going to help him kill her? I don't care if Ralph Macchio himself, Rob Lowe, Tom Cruise, Putin popped in here and said, you have to help me or I'm going to kill you. I'd be like, well, good luck, because I ain't getting involved. I'm calling the police. Yes, Amy, if she had found out he had killed her and then was scared for her life. Something. Some people are very wealthy. Well, I'll tell you what. There ain't no money in the world that can make up for a mama. And yes, it will be helpful that they have more money. They don't have to worry about money. But money ain't everything. It's not everything. So, there you go. That's that rant. The second thing, speaking of Putin, is Alexei Navalny's funeral is today in Russia. And this morning, it looked like they were not going to get his body back. Russia was screwing around with that. And I'm honestly surprised that Putin even allowed it. 56 people were arrested before the funeral even started at their homes and on the way to the funeral. And then they put up all these barriers so people can't go. Anyway, whenever I just think that's when we have to say to ourselves, boy, we should be thankful we live in the United States of America, and we have the ability to go and vote, and we have the ability to read. We have access to information. You can go and read the news, and you're not living in a place where it's censored. we should be thankful. And anyway, we should be thankful. So, anyway, I just thinking about him a lot today, and his bravery and amazingness, and willing to lay down his life for freedom, and all the thousands of people there that are all the thousands of people that were there to, support. Oh, Marcia said, local news, I live in Connecticut, about how she spoke with the police without representation. Well, yeah, Marcia, I mean, that's the thing. If you speak to the police, I think you think, well, I won't look guilty. Well, it's great to speak to the police if you're not guilty, but if you don't speak to the police, then it makes you look guilty. So, but you're not going to remember all the lies, And yes, her fingerprint was on one of the items thrown in the garbage. I saw that too. So anyway, those of us Eastern European heritage whose lives were directly affected by communism know all about men like Pooh. Wow, Alexandra. When I was a little girl, about 9, we went to, at the time it was called Leningrad, which is now St. Petersburg. And there are a few things I remember. And one, when we got into the country, a guard came into our train and he took the head off my baby doll. I guess to see if I had like contraband in it. And me did not like that. You think I'm tough now. I was even tougher then. And then he like dug through my, I had this old metal lunchbox and I kept crayons and stuff in it. And there was money in there, and they like told my dad, you didn't, account for this money. And he was like, I didn't know she had a bunch of like dimes in there. Well, then we end up on such an interesting experience when you think like, why take a 9-year-old to a foreign country, right? What are they going to remember? Well, the things I remember are the things that propel me to speak up. So I remember that our driver of our bus, was so thrilled because my dad had a Time magazine that evidently was like in his suitcase that the guards didn't catch, and he gave it to the bus driver. The bus driver had a college degree and was a physicist, but he wanted his daughter to be able to go to a special college. She was really smart and good in science, and so they said, okay, she can go to that college, but then you have to be a bus driver for 8 years, because he spoke good English, and they wanted that reflects well on Russia. So here this dad just gives up his life and goes to be a bus driver. That's communism. So when you think like, well, some people are poor and it's not fair, let me tell you what, you don't want it the other way. And then the last thing was when we left Russia, there were these long poles and with mirrors on the end, kind of like the dentist looks in your teeth to see if they've been cleaned, but larger. And they were putting those mirrors under the train. And I remember saying to my parents, I don't know which one, what are they doing? And my dad said, well, they're making sure no one is trying to escape. And I said, you mean they just can't leave? Like they lived in a country and they were trapped there. And here we were, Americans. You want to go to Russia? Have at it. So anyway, just be thankful that we live in a country and support those people that stand for freedom, because it is really important, and you need to take advantage of democracy. And if there's anybody you should get your butt to and vote for, it's in memory of Navalny. Only half Americans vote. Half aren't even registered to vote. I'm sure there are people on here right now that have never voted. And I would say to you, if you don't vote, then you should never utter a complaint, ever. You are not allowed to complain. If you vote, and you think about people, you vote for whoever you want. I'll support you all the way. I have no trouble telling who I vote for. Doesn't make me popular, but I'll tell. But the problem is when you don't vote. Vote. be kind to one another. Subscribers, see you in a minute.